Hey, everybody. I'm here with Tim, CTO of Fabletics and Textile. We're going to talk about this new paradigm in CMS. So, Tim, thrilled to have you on. Can you first tell us a little bit about yourself?
I've been the CTO of Textile for the last 12 years. We started as a little small company called Just Fab, but we're a membership e-commerce business, so a little bit different than normal traditional e-commerce.
Tell us a little bit about your technology stack. Like, how are you managing these multiple, big name brands, as a technology team?
Yeah, so I think we made the decision several years ago to really focus on the front end side of things in the world of React, and then eventually React Native with our mobile apps. We really needed to detach away from our monolith and create this environment where we're creating things with components and component-based technology. And that allows us to share a lot of our front-end code between all of the brands and easily do that using NPM and all that. So it's a very easy way of having that ability to share out our code. That is a huge advantage. And it definitely helps us do business quickly. And it's a business accelerator because of that. I have several different teams, front-end teams, that are doing innovation all the time. So you have a team on Savage X50, you have a team on the Just Fab brand side, you have the Fabletics team, and then we have our platforms team. And all of those teams are innovating every single day. And we're all reaping the benefit of that because we're sharing that code. And I think that's one of the advantages there.
Tell us about in the past, as you're going from the point of building internal tooling, because you had specific, slightly more advanced needs, and then eventually saying, hey, maintenance internally maybe is becoming a bit too much of a challenge or a cost. What made you say, hey, we want to go to a headless CMS? And then how did that go?
Yeah, I think we first realized that the maintenance required to maintain what we were building in-house was becoming huge. Having to spend way too much of our time adding small little things to this content management system that we have, where I feel like we should be focused on other things and building other things and getting out of that business and letting these teams that are focused. And when I say these teams, I'm talking teams like the builder team. They're focused every single day on building a phenomenal CMS platform, right? And there is no way with my budget that I can actually have a team that dedicated to just CMS.
I'm curious now too, after the in-house building, you went to a traditional headless CMS and then over to a visual CMS. What were the biggest differences, benefits gained, et cetera?
On the engineering and product side of the house, they were nervous. They're like, hey, wait a minute. Strappy is very structured. You can lock it down. It really even comes locked down out of the box, right? So it's very easy for the engineers and the product people to get comfortable with end users using it. And they were a little skeptical at first when we first started looking at the visual CMS side of the house, which is Builder.io. And when they saw it, that first demo, that's all they needed, right? They really saw the power of it. They're like, wow, it is full featured. We don't got to spend months completing a preview feature that we did on Strappy. Like we lived that world. We had to do that in the Strappy world. So they were really thrilled about that, having the preview feature. They were thrilled about having the A/B testing built into the platform on the builder side. That was a huge plus for us. Like the engineering side of the house, they fell in love right away, and they realized that it is very powerful for the front end users to be able to see what they're doing as they're doing it, which is very different in that headless CMS world that, most of the other vendors live in. So that was really what won them over. And the powerful configuration elements of Builder.io, I think, is one thing that the engineers also love. The ability to only use your custom component, right? Locking it down to that. So you have full control over the way that it's actually visualized in the true from a device standpoint. So we have a strategy, and one of the strategies that we're employing as we build and migrate over to Builder on the Fabletics end is we're doing a lot of custom components. And we're doing that because we want to be able to create pieces of content that we can control the visualization layer, both on the mobile app and on the mobile web. So we can have these custom components that act completely different for the mobile app than they do for the mobile web, but we can generate content data that drives those in one place. And that really helps our marketing teams. And then from a marketing team perspective, going from our tools, who I have a small budget of folks that are building the UI and driving it, and they've done a phenomenal job. But like going over to this full featured visual CMS and seeing what Builder's all about, and then comparing those two to Strappy when we were actually doing the RFP process and trying to figure out which vendor we were going with, it was easy for them, right? I'd much rather see what it looks like when I'm doing it than what it's the structured data elements in these pieces there. And the last hurdle that I had to overcome was, again, on the kind of the product side, they're like, I don't really want to give up so much power to the marketing teams. They're going to screw up the website. They're going to do all this. And I can promise you, there's nobody in the world that wants the website to look better than the marketing. That's the one thing that I've definitely learned in the past is they care about that experience. That is their job, is to create a branding experience that people love. And they're not going to screw that up. And with a little training and creating some sandboxes and doing some cool things, we're able to really lock things down but still give them tons of power to create those experiences that they really want to do for our customers.
Yeah, I love that. What's extra interesting for me here too is taking that idea of being component driven one step further when you're supporting multiple brands. So you talked about this multi-brand architecture with I think you called it like a core platform team, and you make components as an NPM package that are installed into the different brands and match the branding of each of these brands as used. Tell us a bit about that and how are you using that within Builder?
Yeah, so I think for that, what we call it internally, which also an external term is we white label it, right? So our components have these configuration things that go along with them where we can white label things. So a component might have several different little features that might only show for one brand. And maybe they do something else for another. And a lot of that is controlled with our white labeling. And we actually had the intention of taking those configurations and putting them into Builder, because Builder also supports that structured data side that isn't visual, that is often overlooked. And we almost overlooked it when we were looking at Builder. We're like, hey, the visual is so cool, but we lost sight of the fact that there's also this really cool structured data piece that can handle configurations and things like that. So our intention is to take a lot of our white labeling and put it into Builder so we can control that white labeling right there. So we can control the look and feel of those custom components right there from the Builder IO UI. And I'm really excited about that. And I think that's going to really help us drive even better experiences across these brands and give these brands even more autonomy to have identities that they really need. And the speed to market is really going to be our advantage there, right? Being able to share all these components that we build for Builder. Right now, we're just doing the Fabletics business. We're going to then do our Just Fab brands business, which is Fab Kids, Shoe Dazzle, and Just Fab. And they're going to be able to take everything that we've done and immediately just port it over and use it right away. We're talking days, not months to migrate over to Builder in that case.
That's crazy. Yeah. And the inner nerd in me loves that so much. This idea of we're taking completely advanced code you have or visualizing it and we're putting it in the hands of everyone to touch, feel, and create with as this kind of beautiful interactive canvas. And I'm curious, like, what is the net effect of this? So you touched on you're able to implement things faster. What do you expect the business outcomes to be? At ShopStyle, I can give you a taste of what we experienced is engineers could focus more on the work they wanted, which was less changing button colors or repositioning a layout for an A/B test, and more interesting hard problems. And marketing would generally be able to accomplish similar to what you said, rather than waiting 3 months for a backlog for some page modification. It could be just click, do it in a day. Does that track well with how you're assessing the ROI you're having here, what you look forward to and maybe experiencing now?
For sure. I think that one of the KPIs that I'm looking at is around how often do we have to get involved in the marketing aspect of the business, right? Like how many story points are we putting toward this maintenance like work to keep the lights on type work for marketing? It's way too much right now, right? Like that is just way too much for us. And I think that Builder is going to completely get us out of that business outside of us creating those components. We're going to actually change completely the way we build our application. Our teams are going to be focused on doing what I think are the core competencies, like creating awesome personalization algorithms, creating those incredible personalized experiences. And even from a QA perspective, right? Like the software development lifecycle, that's going to change. We're going to be QAing components instead of whole experiences, right? Like that's no longer going to be on the technology team to QA experiences, because every time you touch something in code, you got to QA. That's the unfortunate life that we're in today. I remember way back when I actually first started in this business, probably about 25 years ago, we didn't even know what QA was, but these days you have to have it and it's along every step of the way. But yeah, that process is going to completely change. We're going to focus on what is this component doing? Is it doing what we expected to do? Is the contract being met for what we built there? Is all the requirements met? And that's going to really speed us up there. And I think I already mentioned it on the engineering side. They are going to be able to focus on what's important. And that's going to make our engineers happy. It's going to make our product team happy because the product team can now focus on, instead of doing a lot of project management of what the marketing team wants to do, which that's what that feels like, right? Product marketing is you get your product managers into a world where they're writing tickets up or changing what you said, the color of a button or where the button lives on a website. That's not what we want our product managers doing. So they're going to be focused on improving our product, which on the tech side is our websites, our mobile apps. And I mentioned earlier that we have or maybe I didn't, but we have a huge proprietary stack of technology that we build here. We have our own point of sale system that we use for all of our retail stores. So I can focus efforts in other areas of our business instead of doing the marketing need. And then lastly, just speaking on the business side, measuring success there, it's really going to be around speaking to our marketing team and understanding, are we meeting the needs that we weren't meeting before? Because there's definitely deficiencies that we had there. And I feel as we get through this builder migration, that we're going to actually end up in a place where all of those needs are currently met. And I think that's going to be pretty phenomenal. And the marketing team is going to be super happy about that.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to me to think that in 2022, anybody could just build a website by dragging and dropping for a personal site, a wedding site, whatever. But a real business, there really feels like before the Visual CMS, they're living in the Stone Ages. There is no just drag and drop, make what you want. But that's happening. And it feels to me sometimes React and other frameworks brought this component kind of model to us. Cool products like Storybook allow us to visualize and develop more in a component-centric way, like you said, and test that way. And yeah, we're still hard coding all these pages. And now we have Visual CMS. We can really just developers build components and cool stuff like personalization. Marketers actually build the site from these building blocks, and everybody can move faster, work better together.
For a long, long time, Steve, people have been chasing this, what you see, what you get, like experience to the marketing team. And I feel like you can actually now have a flavor of that with Builder.io and still have these insanely dynamic, great experiences, right? This isn't Wix that we're building here. We're building really intense, complex experiences on our website. And I think that's really exciting. It's a great time to be in this industry, honestly. It's going to make a lot of lives easier on our end, having this Visual CMS. And I have some examples, if you don't mind me sharing, of some things that I think that it's going to improve. Please. One thing just literally came across my desk the other day. Our GM of Fabletics came over and we were talking about responsive design. And she was telling me our designers are struggling getting designs for some of the background imagery and hero imagery set up when we want to have text around that image. And their option was, hey, let's put the text on the image. And we all know that never goes well. It's not accessible. It never looks great. Compression is not great for text on images in most cases, depending on the backgrounds, obviously. But what I think this tool is going to allow and help in this example is our designers are going to be able to go create an image, throw it into that builder experience, put the text on there, move it around and look at what it looks like from different viewport sizes and be able to design almost from builder and test things before they even ship it out the door. And I can tell you, we've spun up a couple different brands over the last couple of years. And that is one of the pain points that we've run into when we've done these brand spin-ups is we've created whole website experiences, whole marketing experiences. We put it up there. The marketers look at it and they're like, this isn't going to work. The text is bleeding over here, or it's covering up Lizzo. We just launched City by Lizzo. And that was literally one of the conversations we had is the text is covering up Lizzo. We can't have the text cover up Lizzo. So those type of things are going away. And I know that it sounds easy, but when you want to create an environment where everybody can succeed and you have a pretty large team of designers, some of them are great with responsive, some of them are not, you need to level the playing field and give them great tools to get there.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love that example. That was why we went so far on those visual editing, full create designs capabilities when you need it. No text over Lizzo. And now you don't want to go back to your development backlog and deploy a padding change.
And you know who would make those changes? An engineer. And you know how painful it is to an engineer to go in there and change padding on an image or on text. They don't want to do that. They want to be doing some awesome, innovative things. They want to be solving some really substantial problems. They don't want to be moving the text off Lizzo. I promise you that.
Oh yeah, I remember the code clutter we used to have at ShopStyle. We'd literally have code that looked like if image equals Lizzo, extra padding, like awful stuff. They'd rather just not be in the code base. Like content should not be in code, components should be in code, content should be out. And I love that story a ton. And I love what you brought up earlier too of this not being a Wix is some of the most exciting stuff we've seen and some of the most awesome things that kind of really keeps me going all the time is this idea of the fusion of code and what would some would call no code, right? So what you can make in Wix is really cool. But when your developers make those components and those building blocks actually can have anything from just really exciting stuff like a 3D animation or something that you drop in around, or really content and commerce rich stuff like a set of personalized products, a variation on how you're showcasing these products that's on brand and niche and bespoke and exciting. That fusion is where we've seen some of the most interesting creative team potential that I've ever seen. So next thing I really want to know, what is the number one thing that you think with this visual CMS will change in the lives of, say, your business teams and marketing teams? What does the world look like different now that you think is most useful?
Steve, I think this is probably the easiest question to answer. And I think that it's really going to be around the workflows and the way that people are creating the content. I think flows is probably one of the most important things you should be looking for when you're bringing in any type of tool. So how are your business users going to actually use the tool? What is their day-to-day going to look like? And I think with Builder and a visual CMS, it dramatically changes the way that they're doing things today. And it probably makes their workflows, I'd say 75% more efficient because there's less back and forth with engineers. There's less back and forth with the product teams. They can see those very rich experiences that they're creating right there in the tool as they're creating them without publishing them out to the world. And they can see them in the context of the website as they're creating them, which is pretty unheard of. And I think that the workflow side of things has been the one thing that I'm probably one of the things that I'm most excited about with Builder. I wouldn't say it's the most exciting thing because there's several other things, but workflows is where it's at. And anybody out there that's looking to bring in any type of technology into their organization, they should be really looking at the workflow side of things. Because if you bring in something that's hard to use, nobody's going to want to use it. If it makes lives harder and makes their jobs harder, nobody's going to be happy. And really in technology, we're here to support our business folks and we want them to be happy. We want those business teams to be happy.
That's amazing. Yeah, if you had asked me 4 years ago, would Fabletics.com ever be dragging and dropping to produce their page of their website, it'd be like, I don't see any world where that's the case. And now it's a reality and it sounds like it's having a real impact. So I love it so much. Tim, thank you so much for coming on and speaking to us. I enjoyed this conversation a ton.
Thanks for having me.